Totally.
Matthew, can you go back to that for a second? I want to
Of
point
course.
something out to the group. You're brilliant here. You note that if you can get back to it, you know what's happening here is that there's really what I call the twins. We're talking about long-term things like perception measures of like CSAT and NPS, whatever. We're also talking about things that you can measure right away.
Exactly.
And the ability for you to connect the dollars to the right away measures is where the ROI is coming from. Now, the other thing is, I imagine, Matthieu, I know you well enough to know there is dollars somewhere in this report because that's what your executives are looking for. It's nice to know it's ROI 5.2 times, but it's like, I gave you money to go do this. What am I getting back for it in dollars? How many dollars did we save in cost by putting people to this channel and helping them with smart FAQs? So this is a great example of when you're thinking about presenting back and talking about ROI, always have those correlation metrics and the longer term and the immediate measures.
Yeah, absolutely. We did not share at all any ROI numbers. The leaders don't care, right? They got the euro value and how much money was saved through this. So that's what they want to see.
Right.
I love the rigor, and this is what makes CX into a proper business discipline. Now, we are a relatively young discipline, and for a while we were busy with education and unfortunately earned ourselves a bit of a reputation for, go hug your customer and being all in the clouds. But this is just the proof that we don't have to be, we cannot afford to be any longer. We have to really get to the business. And as you said at the beginning, the inspiration is important, but not enough. We've got to get down to business metrics that matter. We have to have a vision, but demonstrate the shorter term impact. How well are we progressing to this vision? And by the looks of it, we have to have a lot of skills as CX professionals. Ian, I know you would have an opinion on this.
I've got an opinion on lots of things, Olga, as you know. And it's been fascinating listening to Gabby, Diane, and Matthieu so far, because as you would expect, I agree with everything that they've said. And I think Matthieu's example perfectly demonstrates that there is, without question, a direct relationship between the improvement of the customer experience and the financial performance that the organization will realize as a result. But for us as CX professionals, whilst, as you rightly say, Olga, there has been a lot of education in the theory of CX, what I've argued for a number of years now is that where we have potentially fallen down is in failing to translate the theory into what we can demonstrate is real, tangible, demonstrable change, as I call it. And as you know, Olga, I like to call customer experience a science, and measurement and the return on investment as a result of what you're measuring is where the real science of customer experience comes to life. And unfortunately, there is a lack of education when it comes to measurement. Not just from within the profession itself, but very much from those who are leading organizations. They don't really understand. They don't really get that recognition of where is the financial return coming from. And part of that is down to the way historically we've adopted an approach to customer experience. Because as all of you have alluded to, there is an obsession with VOC. Now, I always make a lot of very bold statements, as you guys all know, when I talk about this, but the obsession with VOC has led to too many business leaders, decision makers, those who are running organizations, believing that there should be a direct connection between improving a net promoter score and the bottom line. That's what they have. Whether they've been told that or not is a different matter. But in their minds, if you're telling me that NPS is critical, what does that mean? What does that mean in financial terms? The problem is that we can't necessarily tell you that answer, because there isn't a direct relationship necessarily between Net Promoter Score and financial performance, especially in the short term. What we've got to remember is that most VOC mechanisms are not real time. They are after the event. They are very volatile, especially NPS, impacted by lots of factors that are out of an organization's control. And so directly relating NPS to a financial number, again, this is a very bold statement, but it's a bit of a fool's game. I was asked as a practitioner many times, and this connects actually to one of Bethan's questions, what does our NPS target need to be for next year? And I would always look slightly vacant at the leader that asked me, because, well, what do you want it to be? Well, what do you mean? Well, do you want it to be 1 percentage point, 5 percentage points? Because your guess is as good as mine, because I can't tell you what it's going to be, because there are too many things that we cannot control that will determine whether or not a customer says to you, I'm likely to recommend you. All right? It's impossible to do. What I'm leading to is the need for education in recognizing that to calculate the return on investment for customer experience, you need to have a full understanding of the picture. And VOC alone does not give you the full picture. What is critical is that we're able to understand the relationship between what we do and the way the customer feels about what we do. Customer experience is all about having a measurable understanding of cause and effect. And what far too many are failing to understand is how customer-facing operational processes are impacting customer perception. And if we're able to improve the performance of those customer-facing processes, how will that positively affect the way the customer feels about what we do? The benefit of understanding that measurable relationship is that not only can you quantify the financial impact of improving the performance of a process, you're then able to determine what the cost impact is, or the revenue generating impact is, on customer perception as a result. What I'm describing, this relationship between processes and journey in measurable terms, is still incredibly rare. Now, a lot of people say to me, Olga, how has the customer experience profession evolved? I would say to you that the CXPA, the Professional Association, was founded in 2011. As we sit here right now in 2023, that in maturity of measurement in the way I'm describing has been possibly the least progressed of all of the competencies in our profession. And what that tells me is that there is still a huge need for education. You knew I was going to start preaching, Olga, and I obviously never disappoint when I talk about this. But this is such an important subject, but that lack of understanding of process capability and how it impacts customer perception is one of the biggest treasure troves that needs to be unlocked.
Oh, that gives me a lot of reassurance, because one of the next subjects we are going to publish is CX measurement, and voice of the process is definitely prominently featured there.
Good.
And I agree, there is such lack of competence, but also lack of sources. How do you go out and become a process specialist?
I don't think you need. I think process is one. So talk to anybody who's got Lean Six Sigma, right? There's a lot of ways to look at a process, but I also think it's the entire ecosystem that you need to look for those pieces of data. And I can tell you a story about how I got started, because this is far from what I started to do in my life. Like, it's like left wing. I think the whole point of it is things like, we helped one organization reduce their knowledge management systems from 5 to 1. So we reduced cost of ownership, cost of maintenance, right? thinking about the employees when we map it with the customer experience. Oh my goodness, if we give them better data, there's less time they spend looking for data. That's productivity for the employee. We need to stop thinking about just the customer, because that is one piece, but we need to look at all those things that are happening that will be impacted by the change that we're making to serve the customer better. So it's all of those things. When I say an additive business value, that's what I mean. I go digging. I go looking for things that I can attach to that project that are going to benefit regardless of where they sit. So I would encourage people to really think through, are you really telling the whole story? Or are you just picking what you're doing to impact the customer and ignoring the process, the data, the IT, the employee, workflows, policies, all the other things we think about?